Okay. There we go. That's the spirit. Let's, fellas, we are running it back. We are running it back. We're running it back. I don't care. We're running it back. We're doing a music stream. Ooh, isn't that fun? That's crazy, dude. That's insane. That's so silly. We are so back. All right. Fuck it. I guess I'm just leaving Twitch now. God damn it. Whatever.
Some people don't follow your heart, but
I don't care. We are so back.
Also. And
I hope I don't get banned
that has to
again.
do with other things, you got to get elected.
But I guess we'll
the
see.
The problem they have is they're radical because
pardon
they
this
will
intrusion.
take the life of a child in the 8th month, the 9th month, and even after birth. After birth. If you
After
look
birth?
at the former governor of Virginia,
We're talking about
he
abortion
was willing
right
to
now.
do this. He said, "We'll put the baby aside." And we'll determine what we do with the baby, meaning we'll kill the baby.
Yeah, that is what that means.
What happened is we brought it back to the states, and the country is now coming together on this issue. It's been a great thing.
Crazy,
Thank you.
dude.
President Biden?
Insane.
It's a terrible thing, what you're doing.
It's going to be a terrible thing.
The vast majority of constitutional scholars supported Roe when it was decided. Supported Roe. And that's this idea that they're all against it is just ridiculous. And this is the guy who says the state should be able to have it. We're in a state where in 6 weeks, you don't even know whether you're pregnant or not, but you cannot see a doctor and have him decide on what your circumstances are when you need help. The idea that states are able to do this.
That's right, Mr. President.
We're going to turn civil rights back to the states. Let each state have a different
So true,
rule.
Mr. President.
Look, there's so many young women who have been, including a young woman who just was murdered, and he went to the funeral. The idea that she was murdered by an immigrant coming in to talk about that. But
what the fuck?
Deal. There's a lot of young women who are being raped by their in-laws, by their spouses, brothers and sisters, it's just ridiculous, and they can do nothing about it. And they try to arrest them when they cross state lines.
Thank you.
There have been many young women murdered by the same people he allows to come across our border. We have a border that's the most dangerous place anywhere in the world. Considered the most dangerous.
So for those of you who didn't know how to digest that, he was look at motherfucking Joseph Robinette Biden's face right now. The disdain, the disgust, the where am I, the when's dinner. Like, that's sorry.
Which is what everybody wanted, including the founders, if they knew about this issue, which frankly they didn't. But they would have.
Frankly,
everybody
they
wanted
didn't.
it brought back. Ronald Reagan wanted it brought back. He wasn't able to get it. Everybody wanted it brought back, and many presidents had tried to get it back. I was the one to do it. And again, this gives it the vote of the people, and that's where they wanted it. Every legal scholar wanted it that way.
Staying on the topic of abortion, President Biden, 7 states, I'll let you do that. This is the same topic. 7 states have no legal restrictions on how far into a pregnancy a woman can obtain an abortion. Do you support any legal limits on how late a woman should be able to terminate a pregnancy?
I supported Roe v. Wade, which had 3 trimesters. The first time is between the woman and the doctor. Second time is between the doctor and an extreme situation. The third time is between the doctor.
You gotta be kidding me, bro.
The idea that the politicians...
You gotta be kidding me.
That the founders wanted the politicians to be the ones making decisions about women's health.
Oh my God.
That's the last. No politician should be making that decision. A doctor should be making those decisions. That's how it should be run. That's what you're going to do. And if I'm elected, I'm going to restore Roe v. Wade.
Okay.
He can take the life of the baby in the 9th month and even after birth, because some states, Democrat run, take it after birth.
There are no states where that
former
happens.
Governor of Virginia.
Just for the record,
baby down, then we decide what to do.
There are no states where you can kill a baby that has been born.
To, as we say, rip the baby out of the womb in the 9th month and kill the baby. Nobody wants that to happen, Democrat or Republican. Nobody wants it to happen.
That's right, and that's why it doesn't
simply
happen.
Not true. that Roe v. Wade does not provide for that. That's not the circumstance. Only if a woman's life is in danger, she's going to die. That's the only circumstance in which that can happen. But we are not for late-term abortion, period. Period, period.
Under Roe v. Wade, you have late-term
That's pretty
abortion.
good.
You
That
can
was
do
not
whatever
bad.
you want, depending on the state. You can do whatever you want. We don't think that's a good thing. We think it's a radical thing. We think the Democrats are the radicals,
Dude,
not the Republicans.
They're talking
For
like
51 years,
babies.
that was the law. 51 years,
51
constitutional
years.
scholarship said it was the right way to go.
They're-
51 years, and it was taken away because this guy...
This is a layup for Biden, by the way. Abortion is
Takes credit for taking it
hugely
away.
popular
What's
in the
he
United
gonna do?
States.
What's he going to do, in fact, if the MAGA Republicans, he gets elected, and the MAGA Republicans control the Congress, and they pass a universal ban on abortion, period, across the board.
Combined age
That's
of
6 weeks or
151
7 or
years,
8 or
good
10
lord.
weeks, something very, very conservative. Is he going to sign that bill?
You're not wrong.
I'll veto it. He'll sign it.
Thank you.
Let's turn now to the issue of immigration and border security.
He started
President
talking.
Biden, a record number
started
of
talking with the mic
migrants
muted.
have illegally crossed the southern border on your watch. Overwhelming border
love it.
states and overburdening cities such as New York and Chicago, and in some cases causing real safety and security concerns. Given that, why should voters trust you to solve this crisis?
Because we worked very hard to get a bipartisan agreement that not only changed all of that, it made sure that we are in a situation where you had no circumstance where they could come across the border with the number of border police
159.
there are now.
Understandable.
We significantly increased the number of asylum officers.
That's
Significantly-
insane, dude.
By the way, the Border Patrol endorsed me, endorsed my position.
No, that's true.
In addition to
Biden
that,
has
we
been
find ourselves in a
very,
situation
very
where
Trumpian
when
on
he
the
was
border.
president, he was taking
He's not
separating
building any
babies
walls.
from their mothers, putting them in cages.
But if you don't
making
like
sure the families were separated.
Mexicans
That's
coming over
not
the
right way to
border.
go. What I've
Biden's
done
been-
since I've
he's
changed
been
the
trying.
law, what's happened? I've changed it in a way that now
To,
we're in a situation where there are
to keep
40%
Mexicans
fewer
out,
people coming across the border
frankly.
illegally. It's better than when he left office.
Mhm.
And I'm going to
That's
continue
actually-
to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we can do with more border patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either. Look, we had the safest border in the history of our country. The border, all he had to do was leave it. All he had to do was leave it. He decided to open
Guys,
up our border, open up our country
I'm voting for
to
Trump now.
people that are from prisons, people that are from mental institutions, insane asylum, terrorists. We have the largest number of terrorists coming into our country right now. All terrorists,
can't-
all over the
I
world, not
can't
just in
fucking-
South America, all over
Dude.
the world. They come from the Middle East,
Insane.
everywhere. All over the world, they're pouring in. And this guy
Biden didn't give a
just
fuck
left it
that he
open.
said that.
And he didn't need legislation because I didn't have legislation. I said close the border. We had the safest border in history. In that final couple of months of my presidency, we had, according to Border Patrol, who is great, and by the way, who endorsed me for president, but I won't say that, but they endorsed me for president. Brandon, just speak to him. But look, we had the safest border in history. Now we have the worst border in history. There's never been anything like it. And people are dying all over the place, including the people that are coming up.
That's
in
crazy.
President
caravans.
Trump. President Biden?
The only terrorist who's
Dude.
done anything crossing the border is one who came along and killed three, under his administration, killed an Al-Qaeda person come in his administration, killed 3 American soldiers, That's the only terrorist.
What
that's
is
there.
bro
I'm not
talking
saying
about?
No terrorist ever got through, but the idea they're emptying their prisons, we're welcoming these people. That's simply not true. There's
Joe.
no data to support what he said.
Joe,
Once again, he's exaggerating. He's
You're,
lying.
no one knows what you're
President
saying.
Trump, staying on the topic of immigration.
been
you
24
said you're gonna
minutes.
Carry out, quote,
I
the
don't-
largest
I
domestic
don't know.
deportation operation in American history, unquote. Does
It's,
that mean that you will deport every undocumented immigrant in America, including those who have jobs, including those whose spouses are citizens?
Okay, Chad
and
answer
including
is
those who have lived
yes.
here for decades? And if so, how will you do it?
Chad answer is
Just
yes.
1 second. He said we killed 3 people. The people we killed are al-Baghdadi and Soleimani, the 2 greatest terrorists, biggest terrorists anywhere in the world. And it
This-
had a
this
huge
goes until
impact on
10:30.
everything, not just border.
There's
on
a break.
everything.
He's
He's the one that killed people
coming
with
up
a
in, I
bad
think,
border,
20 minutes.
including hundreds of thousands of people dying.
I believe it's in
and
about 20
also
minutes.
killing our citizens
Maybe
when they
sooner.
come in. We are living right now in a rat's nest. They're killing our people in New York, in
We are
California,
living in a rat's
in
nest.
every
That's true.
state in the union because we don't have borders anymore. Every state is now a
Dude,
border.
Biden
And
is
because
so
of his
fucking high
ridiculous,
right now.
Insane and very stupid policies. People are coming in and they're killing our citizens. at a level that we've never seen. We call it migrant crime. I call it Biden migrant crime. They're killing our citizens at a level that we've never seen before.
That is not the
And
banger
you're
you think it
reading
is, sir.
Like these 3 incredible young girls over the last few days. One of them, I just spoke to the mother, and he just had the funeral for this girl, 12 years old. This is horrible what's taken place. What's taken place in our country, we're literally an uncivilized country now.
Dude,
he doesn't want it to be. He just doesn't
Biden
know.
is genuinely blasted out of his
Nobody's
mind.
ever seen anything like. And we
Look
have
at
to
this
get a lot
guy.
of these people out,
I
and
think
we
he's
have to
gonna
get them
die
out
on
fast
stage.
because they're going to destroy our country. Just take a look at where they're living. They're living in luxury
That would be kind of
hotels
awesome.
in New York City and other places. Our veterans are on the street. They're dying because he doesn't care about our
That's
veterans. He doesn't
fucking
care. He doesn't
bonkers,
like the
bro.
military at all, and he doesn't care about our veterans. Nobody been worse. I had the highest approval rating for veterans taking care of the VA. He has the worst. He's gotten rid of all
He's
the
trying
things
to
that I
process
approved. Choice
Trump's
that I got
trash.
through Congress.
I think
all of
so.
the
I
different
think he
things I
must be.
approved, they abandoned. We
He's
had by
working
far
so
the highest,
hard.
and now it's down in less than half because he's done all these great things that we did, and I think he did it just because I approved it, which is crazy. But he has killed so many people at our border by
Thank you,
allowing
President.
all
He
of
keeps
these
making
people
the
to
It's
come
Jover
in.
face.
And it's a very
President
sad
True.
day in America.
President Biden, you have the mic.
Every single thing he said is a lie. Every single one. For example,
Very
veterans
impressive
are held
rebuttal,
up
sir.
better off since I passed the PACT Act. 1 million of them now have insurance, and their families have it. Their families have it because what happened, whether it was Agent Orange or burn pits, they're all being covered now. And he opposed, his group opposed that. We're also in a situation where we have great respect for veterans. My son spent a year in Iraq, living right next to one of those burn pits, came back with stage 4 glioblastoma.
Do you think Joe Biden is higher than
was
you right now?
recently
I actually do.
in,
I actually
France
genuinely do.
For D-Day, and I spoke all about those heroes that died. I went to the
He's,
World War II
let me tell you, he's
cemetery.
not having what I
World War
have,
I
honey.
cemetery.
Let me
Refused to go
fucking
there.
make that
He was standing
immensely
with his
clear.
4-star general, and he told me, he said, I don't want to go in there because they're a bunch of losers and suckers. My son was not a loser, was not a sucker. You're the sucker. You're the loser.
President Trump?
First of all, that was a made-up quote, suckers and losers. They made it up. It was in a third-rate magazine that's failing, like many of these magazines. He made that up. He put it in commercials. We've notified him. We had 19 people that said I didn't say it. And think of this. Who would
19?
say I'm at a cemetery or I'm talking about our veterans? Because nobody's taken better care. I'm so glad this came up, and he brought it up. There's nobody that's taken better care of our soldiers than I have. To think that I would, in front of generals and others, say suckers and losers.
That's
we have
crazy.
19
people
that said
have corroborated
it was never
this,
said
guys.
by me. It was made up by him, just like
That's impressive.
Russia was made up, just like the 51 intelligence agents are made up, just like the new thing with the 16 economists are talking. It's the
Dude,
same
Biden's
thing.
face is
51
like,
intelligence
oh,
agents
God.
said that the
We did make that
laptop
up.
was Russia disinformation. It wasn't. That came from his son Hunter. It wasn't
Hunter.
Russia disinformation. He made up the suckers and losers, so he should apologize to me right now.
That was Hunter.
4-star general standing to your side who was on your staff who said you said it, period. That's number one. And number two, the idea that I have to apologize to you for anything along the line. We've done more for veterans than any president has in American history. And they now are in their family. The only sacred obligation we have as a country is to care for our veterans when they come home and their families and equip them when they go to war. That's what we're doing. That's what the VA is doing now. They're doing more for veterans than ever before in our history.
All right, thank you so much.
Biden wondering
Topic
if
of
he
foreign
left the
policy.
oven
I
on.
want to begin with Russia's war
At the
against
White House.
Ukraine, which is now in its third year.
So true.
Former President Trump, Russian President Vladimir Putin says he'll only end
Here we go.
this war if Russia keeps the Ukrainian territory it has already claimed, and Ukraine
Trump is going to say,
abandons
we
its
never would have
bid
gotten
to
into this
join
war
NATO."
if I was in office.
Are Putin's terms acceptable
I had
to
a
you?
great relationship
First
with
of all,
Putin. It never would have happened.
Our veterans and our soldiers.
He's not gonna answer the
can't
question.
Stand this guy.
All he's going
They
to say
can't
is,
stand him. They think he's the worst commander in chief.
all he's going to say is it never would have happened.
that we've ever had. They can't stand him. So let's get that straight. And they like me more than just about any of them. And that's based on every single bit of information. As far as Russia and Ukraine, if we had a real president, the president that knew, that was respected by Putin, he would have never invaded Ukraine. A lot of people are dead.
Yes,
right
I can
now,
see the
much more
future.
than
Thank you
people
for
know.
asking.
You know, they talk about numbers. You can double those numbers, maybe triple those numbers. He did nothing to stop
This
it. In
is
fact,
such
I
an
think he
embarrassing
encouraged
line for
Russia
him.
from going in. I'll tell you what happened. He was so bad with Afghanistan. It was such a horrible embarrassment, most
Why is he
embarrassing
talking about
moment
Afghanistan
in the
now?
history of our country, that when Putin watched that and he saw the incompetence that he should...
Guys, the question was, how, like, is it acceptable for Putin to take over Ukraine? The question was, is it acceptable for Putin to take over Ukraine? Trump said, it never would have happened if I were president. And also, Afghanistan.
Lost 13 beautiful soldiers, and 38 soldiers were obliterated.
Like, God damn it,
by the way,
dude.
we left people behind, too. We left American citizens behind. When Putin saw that, he said, you know what? I think we're going to go in and maybe take my... This was his dream. I talked to him about it, his dream. The difference is he never would have invaded Ukraine. Never. Just like Israel would have never been invaded in a million years by Hamas. You know why? Because Iran was broke with me. I wouldn't let anybody do business
because
with them.
Hamas
They ran
loves
out of
me.
money. They were broke. They had no money for Hamas. They had no
They
money
respect
for anything.
me.
No money for terror.
When I was
That's why you
president,
had
I said,
no
Mr.
terror at all
Hamas,
during my
please
administration.
don't invade.
This place, the whole world is blowing up under him.
President Biden?
I've never heard so much malarkey in my whole life. Look, the fact of the matter is that we're in a situation where, let's take the last point first. Iran attacked American troops.
Never heard so much malarkey in my life.
Caused brain damage for a number of these
True.
troops. And he did nothing about it. Recently, not when he was president. They attacked.
Oh,
he
good
said they're
heavens.
just having headaches. That's all it is. He didn't do a thing when the attack took
He
place.
said
number
malarkey.
one.
I'm wet, guys.
Number two, we got over
I'm
100,000
sorry.
Americans and others out of Afghanistan
malarkey.
during that airlift. Number three, we found
3.
ourselves in a situation where, if you take a look at what Trump did in Ukraine, this guy told Trump,
Check the
do
malarkey.
whatever you want.
Check
and do
malarkey in your
whatever
bingo
you want.
cards.
And that's exactly what Trump
That's
did
crazy, dude.
to Putin, encourage him, do whatever you want. And he went in. And listen to what he said when he went in. He was going to take Kyiv in 5 days, remember? Because it's part of the old Soviet Union. That's what he wanted to reestablish. Kyiv. And he, in fact, didn't do it at all. He wasn't able to get it done.
He didn't do it. I
and
can't
they've
believe
lost
that.
They've lost thousands and thousands of troops, 500,000 troops.
Thank you.
President Trump,
I
if
never
come back
said
to you
that.
for 1 minute, I just want to go back to my original question, which is, are Putin's terms acceptable
Thank
to
you. Answer the
Keeping
question,
territory
please.
in Ukraine.
Acceptable. No, they're not acceptable.
Okay.
But look,
Little
this is a war
pushback.
that never should have started.
And he doesn't
We had
care.
a leader in
We're just
this
moving
war.
on.
He led everybody along.
The easiest
He's
question
given
in the
$200
world.
billion
Should Putin take
now
over
or
Ukraine?
more to Ukraine. He's given $200
And Trump's like,
billion.
no.
That's a lot
However-
of money. I don't think there's ever been anything like it. Every time that Zelensky comes to this country, he walks away with $60 billion. He's the greatest salesman ever. And I'm not knocking him. I'm not knocking anything. I'm only saying the money that we're spending on this war, and we shouldn't be spending, it should have never happened. I will have that war settled between Putin and Zelensky as president-elect
How?
before I take office on January
How?
20th. I'll have that war settled. People being killed
Share
so
your
needlessly,
secrets.
so stupidly, and I will get it settled, and I'll get it settled fast
How
before
are
I take
you
office.
doing it?
You know,
How will you do it?
the fact is that Putin is a war criminal. He's killed thousands and thousands of people. And he has made one thing clear.
That's probably
He
true.
wants to reestablish what was part of the Soviet Empire, not just a piece. He wants all of Ukraine. That's what he wants. And then do you think he'll stop there? Do you think he'll stop when if he takes Ukraine? What do you think happens to Poland? What do you think of Belarus? What do you think happens to those NATO countries? And so if you want a war, you ought to find out what he's going to do.
God
because
damn it,
if
dude.
in fact he does what he says and walks away, by the way,
By the
all
way.
that money we give Ukraine and from weapons we make.
And
here
one
in the
more
United States,
thing.
we give them the weapons, not the money at this point. And our NATO allies have produced as much funding for Ukraine as we have. That's why we're strong.
Thank you. Moving on to the Middle East. In October, Hamas attacked Israel, killing
These
more than
moderators
1,000
are
people and
terrible, by
taking
the way.
hundreds
They
of
think because
hostages.
the mics are
Among
cut
those
when
held
the
and
candidates
thought
aren't
to
talking
still
that
be
they don't have to
alive
do their
are
jobs.
5
But
Americans.
they need to
Israel's
press on
response
these
has
questions.
killed thousands of Palestinians and created a
Like,
humanitarian
I don't.
crisis in
I
Gaza.
actually totally forget who
President
this is.
Biden,
I know
you've put
the other
forward
guy is Jake
a
Tapper.
proposal to
But
resolve
whoever this is,
conflict.
she actually pushed back
But
a little
so
bit and
far,
said, like,
Hamas
okay, the
has
question
not
was
released
this.
the remaining hostages,
Trump
and
at least
Israel
answered
is
it, kind of,
continuing
but,
its
like-
military offensive in Gaza. So what additional leverage will you use
moderating is
to
not
get
great,
Hamas
that's
and
all.
Israel to end the war. You have 2 minutes.
Okay.
Number one, everyone from the United Nations Security Council straight through to the G7 to the Israelis and Netanyahu himself have endorsed the plan I put forward.
Okay.
Endorsed the plan I put forward, which has 3 stages to it. The first stage is trade the hostages for a ceasefire. Second phase is a ceasefire with additional conditions. The third phase is the end of the war. The only one who wants the war to continue is Hamas, number one. They're the only ones standing out. We're still pushing hard to get them to accept. In the meantime, what's happened? In Israel, we're finding that the only thing I've denied Israel was 2,000-pound bombs. They don't work very well in populated areas. They kill a lot of innocent people. We're providing Israel with all the weapons they need and when they need them. And by the way, I'm the guy that organized the world against Iran when they had a full-blown intercontinental ballistic missile attack on Israel. No one was hurt. No one Israeli was accidentally killed, and it stopped. We saved Israel. We are the biggest
You're so right, Zach.
Of support for
Give
Israel
us
of anyone in the
nothing.
world.
Give us nothing.
And so they're 2 different things.
Where's number 2?
Hamas cannot be allowed to be continued. We continue to send our experts and our intelligence people as to how they can get Hamas like we did bin Laden. You don't have to do it. And by the way, they've been greatly weakened, Hamas.
Okay.
Greatly weakened, and they should be. They should be eliminated.
Awesome.
But you've got to be careful for using certain weapons among population centers.
You guys are so funny.
Just going back to Ukraine for 1 second. We have an ocean separating us.
Guys,
the European nations
Trump is being so polite.
$100 billion or maybe more than that.
He's being
less
so
than us.
good.
Why doesn't he call
He's
them?
being
so
such
put
a
up your
good
money
boy.
Like I did with NATO. I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. The Secretary General of NATO said Trump did the most incredible
This is
job
so
I've ever
bad.
seen. You wouldn't,
This
they
is
wouldn't
so
have any,
fucking
they were going out
bad.
of business. We
This
were
is-
spending
this is,
almost
like,
100%
actually
of the
terrible
money
for
was-
Biden.
It was paid by us.
This
He
is
didn't do that.
immensely
He's getting all
terrible
you
for
gotta ask
Biden.
these people to put
Trump
up the
is
money.
behaving.
We're over
Trump looks
$100
fucking
billion
tame right
more
now.
spent, and it has a big
Biden
impact
looks like a
on them
fucking maniac.
because of location, because we have an ocean in between. You got to ask them as far as
I can't believe
Israel
this. Trump is going to win.
and Hamas.
Legitimately.
Israel's the one that wants to go. He said
Trump is
the
gonna
only
win the
one that
election
wants to
off
keep
of
going
this.
is Hamas. Actually,
That's how
Israel
bad
is
this
the one,
is
and you should
for
let
Biden
him go
right now.
and let him finish the job. He doesn't want to do it. He's become like a Palestinian, but they don't like him because he's a very bad Palestinian. He's a weak one.
President Biden, you have a minute.
I've never heard so much foolishness. This is a guy who wants to get out of NATO. Are you going to stay in NATO? He's going to pull out of NATO. The idea that we have our strength lies in our alliances as well. There may be a big ocean.
gonna pull out of
You're
NATO?
able to avoid a war in,
He's like,
Europe, a major war in Europe.
Shit, I
what
might.
happens if, in fact, you have Putin continue to go into NATO? We have an Article 5 agreement. Attack
Oh
on
my
one is
God.
attack on all. You
He-
want to start the nuclear
dude, his
war he
f-
keeps talking about, go ahead. Let Putin go in and
His
control
face when Trump is
Ukraine,
talking
and
might
then move
single-handedly
on to
lose the
Poland and
election
other
for him.
places. See what happens then. He has no idea what the hell he's talking about. And by the way, I got 50 other nations around the world to support Ukraine, including
I'm
Japan
baffled.
and
He
South
wants to
Korea,
pull out.
because they understand
Shut
that
up,
this
creature
this kind of
cats. Shut the
dislocation
fuck up,
has
bro.
a serious threat to the whole world peace. No major war in Europe has ever been able to be contained just to Europe.
Sorry, I was tapped out.
President
that's why I
Trump, just to
disagreed.
follow up, would you support the creation of an independent Palestinian state in order to achieve peace in the region?
Yes.
I'd have to see, but before we do that, the problem we have
That's
is
such an
that we
easy
spend all
answer.
the money.
That's such
so
an
they
easy
kill us
answer.
on trade. I made great trade deals
Wow,
with
that's
the
interesting.
European nations. Because if you add them up, they're about the same size economically.
It's actually really interesting
Their
that you said
economy
that.
is about the same size as the United States. And they were no cars.
No, 'cause it's
they
so
don't want
free.
anything that we
Yes.
have. But we're
But he
supposed
said
to take their cars,
he
their
left it
food,
open.
their everything, their agriculture.
That's interesting.
I changed that. But the big thing I changed is they don't want to pay. And the only reason that he can play games with NATO is because I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. I said, and he's right about this, I said, no, I'm not going to support NATO if you don't pay. They asked me that question. Would you guard us against Russia?
Can we just
At a very
admire?
secret meeting of the 28 states at that time, nations at that time. And they said, no, if you don't pay, I won't do that. And you know what happened? Billions and billions of dollars came flowing in the next day and the next months. But now we're in the same position. We're paying everybody's
Thank you.
bills.
Let's turn to the issue of democracy. Former President Trump, I want to ask you about January 6, 2021.
That's crazy.
After you rallied your supporters that day, Some of them stormed the Capitol to stop the constitutionally mandated counting of electoral votes.
We're talking about January 6th,
As president,
baby.
you swore an oath to, quote, preserve, protect, and defend, unquote, the Constitution. What do you say to voters who believe that you violated that oath through your actions and inaction on January 6th and worry that you'll do it again?
Well, I don't think too many believe that. And let me tell you about January 6th. On
January
January
he's gonna
6th,
run the points.
we had a great border. Nobody coming through, very few. On January 6th, we were energy independent. On January 6th, we had the lowest taxes ever. We had the lowest regulations ever.
I like that they
On
put the question up
January
too,
6th, we were
just to be
respected
like, hey
all
guys,
over the world.
just in case you were
All over
wondering,
the world,
he's
we were
not answering the
respected.
question.
And then he comes in, and we're now laughed at. We're like a bunch of stupid people.
This is the exact
What
opposite
happened
of the
to
case, by the way.
United States' reputation under this man's leadership.
Our reputation
is
internationally
horrible,
is miles
including
better than it is under
weaponization,
Trump.
which I'm sure at some point you'll be talking about, where he goes after his political opponent because he can't be.
I do want to just make that clear that internationally, people far more prefer Biden just because it's like normal. Like, we were laughed at under Trump. Let's be clear.
Peacefully and patriotically. And Nancy Pelosi, if you just watched the news from 2 days ago, on tape to her daughter, who's a documentary filmmaker, they say, but she's saying, oh, no, it's my responsibility. I was responsible for this. Because I offered her 10,000 soldiers or National Guard, and she turned them down. And the mayor of, in writing, by the way, the mayor, in writing, turned it down, the mayor of D.C. They turned it down. I offered 10,000 because I could see, I had virtually nothing to do. They asked me to go make a speech. I could see what was happening. Everybody was saying they're going to be there on January 6th. They're going to be there. And I said, you know what?
I don't
That's a lot
love
of
when
people
he
coming.
reruns
You could feel
content
it.
because
You could
this
feel
is
it too,
we've heard it,
and you could
man.
feel it.
We know.
And I said they ought to have some National Guard or whatever. And I offered it to her, and she now admits that she turned it down. And it was the same day she was, I don't know, she can't be very happy with her daughter because it made her into a liar. She said, I take full responsibility for January 6th.
We got to move on. This is boring.
Look,
he
encouraged those folks to go up on Capitol Hill.
Yeah.
Number one. I sat in that dining room off the Oval
This is
Office.
objectively
He
true.
sat there for 3 hours. 3 hours watching, begging, being begged by his vice president and a number of his colleagues on the Republican side as well to do something, to call for a stop, to end it. Instead, they talked about these people being patriots and great patrons of America. In fact, he says he'll now forgive them for.
I need
what they've done.
tweezers, and I don't care about January 6th, so I'll be right back.
He says he wants to commute their sentences and say that
Chair
no,
stream.
he went to
Chair
every
stream.
single court in the nation. I don't know how many cases, scores of cases, including the Supreme Court, and they said, no, this guy is responsible for doing what was done. He did do a damn thing, and these people should be in jail, and they should be the ones who are being held accountable. And he wants to let them all out. And now he says if he loses again, such a whiner that he is.
Chat, do you guys give a shit about
bloodbath.
January 6th? Because I'm kind of tired of it.
President Trump?
What they've done to
What's the
some people
mood?
that are so innocent, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. What you have done, how you've destroyed the lives of so many people when they ripped down Portland, when they ripped down many other cities. You go to Minnesota,
Kinda.
Minneapolis, what they've done there.
I mean, it was not.
With the fires
It
all
wasn't
over the city.
good.
If I didn't bring in the National Guard, that city would have been destroyed.
January
When you look
6th
at
wasn't
all of the
great.
They took over big chunks of Seattle. I was all set to bring in the National Guard. They heard that. They saw them coming, and they left immediately. What he said about this whole subject is so off. Peacefully patriotic. One other thing. The Unselect Committee, which is basically two horrible Republicans that are all gone now, out of office, and Democrats, all Democrats, they destroyed and deleted all of the information they found because they found out we were right. We were right. And they deleted and destroyed all of the information. They should go to jail for that. If a Republican did that, they'd go to jail.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, I want to give you a minute.
The only person in this
Please,
stage
I
is a
don't-
convicted felon is the man I'm looking at.
Oh, that's true. Okay,
The
we
fact
got
of
it.
the
We
matter
got
is,
it.
He is
Convicted felon.
What he's telling you is simply not true. The fact is that there was no effort on his part
Give us the
to
facts,
stop
big
what was
guy.
going on up in
Stream, don't
Capitol
do
Hill.
this.
And all
Okay.
those people, every one of those who were convicted,
Girl,
was
who
turned
is
over
we?
desks, turned them over statues. The idea that those people are patriots, come on.
Come on.
When I asked him the first
Come on, Jack.
the debates we had first time around, I said, will you denounce the Proud Board?
How are you going to call them
he
patriots?
Said, no, I'll tell them to stand by. The idea he's refusing to, will
Come
we
on,
denounce
Jack.
these guys? We denounce the people we're talking about now? We denounce the people who attacked that Capitol? What are you going to do?
I'm going to give you a minute, President Trump, for a follow-up question I have. After a jury convicted you of 34 felonies last month, you said if reelected, you would, quote, have every right to go after, unquote, your political opponents. You just talked about members of the Select Committee on January 6th going to jail. Your main political opponent is standing on stage with you tonight. Can you clarify exactly what it means about you feeling you have every right to go after your political opponents?
Well, I said my retribution is going to be success. We're going to make this country successful again, because right now it's a failing nation. My retribution.
They say
is
the
going to be
best revenge is
But when
success.
he talks about a convicted felon, his son is a convicted felon at a very high level. His son is convicted, going to be convicted probably numerous other times. Should have been convicted before, but his Justice Department let the statute of limitations lapse on the most important things. But he could be a convicted felon as soon as he gets out of office. Joe could be a convicted felon with all of the things that he's done. He's done horrible things. All of the death caused at the border, telling the Ukrainian people that we're going to want $1 billion or you change the prosecutor. Otherwise, you're not getting $1 billion. If I ever said that, that's quid pro quo.
You did say that, dude.
We're not going to do anything. We're not going to give you $1 billion.
He did do
change
that.
Your prosecutor having to do with the son. This man is a criminal.
He withheld
This man,
aid
you're
to
lucky.
Ukraine.
You're lucky. I did nothing wrong. We'd have a system that was
you guys,
rigged and disgusting.
You guys
I
remember
did
this,
nothing
right?
wrong.
He withheld
Thank you,
aid to
President
Ukraine
Trump. President Biden, you
unless
have said, I'm coming
they
right to
were
you,
going to
sir.
look into Hunter Biden.
Well, you want to respond? Go ahead. I'll give you a minute to respond.
The idea that I did anything
Oh, he's
wrong
mad.
relative to what you're talking about is outrageous.
Oh, he's
It's
mad.
simply a lie, number one. Number two, the idea that you have a right to seek retribution against any American just because you're president is wrong. It's simply wrong. No president's ever spoken like that before. No president in our history.
He's
has
so
spoken like that
mad.
before. Number three,
He's so mad.
the crimes that you are
You
still
seeing
charged
this?
with. And think of all the civil penalties you have. How many billions of dollars do you owe in civil penalties for molesting a woman in public, for doing a whole range of things,
Can't
of
believe
having
this
sex
shit.
with a porn star on the night while your wife was pregnant? I mean, what are you talking about? You have the morals of an alley cat.
What are you talking
Give me a
about?
minute, sir.
I didn't have sex with a porn star, number one. Number two,
Brother,
that was
you
a
did.
case that was started and moved. They moved a high-ranking official, a DOJ, into the Manhattan DA's office to
He
start
shouldn't
that
even
case.
lie about
that
it.
Case is going
He
to be
should just
appealed
be
and
like,
won.
yeah, I had
They
sex with a
very-
porn star.
a
Because you know
terrible
what?
Judge, a horrible judge,
People would
Democrat.
love that.
The prosecutor were all high-ranking Democrats, appointed people.
That's free for
and
him.
Both the civil
I'm just saying.
and the criminal. He basically went after his political opponent because he thought it was going to damage me. But when the public found out about these cases, because they understand it better than he does, he has no idea what these cases are. But
He has
when
no idea where
when
he
they
is,
found out about
Mr.
these
Trump.
cases, you know what they did? My poll numbers went up, way up. You know that because you're reporting it. And we took in more money in the last 2 weeks than we've ever taken in the history of any campaign. I don't think any campaign has ever taken. Hundreds of millions of dollars came pouring in because the public knows it's a scam and it's a guy that's after his
crazy,
political opponent because he can't win fair and square.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, you have said, quote, Donald Trump and his MAGA Republicans are determined to destroy American democracy. Do you believe
Which
that
is
the tens of
objectively
millions
true
of
also.
Americans who are likely to vote for President Trump will be voting against American democracy?
The more they know about what he's done, yes. The more they know about what he's done. And there's a lot more coming. He's got a lot of cases down the road coming around. He's got a whole range of issues he has to face. I don't know what the juries will do, but I do know he has a real problem. And so the fact that, could you ever think you heard any president say that I'm going to seek retribution? Do you ever hear any president say that I thought Hitler had some good
Dude,
ideas? What got me involved to run in the first place after my son had died, I decided in Iraq, because of Iraq,
This is a
I
little
said I wasn't going to run
exhausting.
again until I saw what happened in Charlottesville, Virginia. People coming out of the woods carrying swastikas
My
on
goodness, and
torches,
I'm not even up
torches,
there
and singing
talking.
the same anti-Semitic bile they sang.
I should run
back
for
in Germany.
president.
And the young woman got killed. I spoke
This
to the
is
mother.
this is
And
making me
they
think that
asked him, they
honestly
said,
I could run for president.
What do you think?
I
of
could
those
win.
people? The people who, the ones
I could
that,
win.
the one who tried to stop it, and the ones he said, I think they're fine people on both sides.
I could beat Trump.
What American president would ever say
This sucks,
Nazis
man.
coming out of fields,
This
carrying
is so
torches,
bad.
singing the same anti-Semitic
Like,
bile,
Biden
carrying
is not
swastikas,
spitting.
We're fine people. This is the guy who says Hitler's done
How
some good
easy is
things,
it to run
like
against
to know
Trump?
What they are.
Convicted
Good things
felon.
Hitler's done, that's what he
Like-
said. This guy has no sense of American democracy.
President Trump.
Jake, both of you know that story has been totally wiped out because when you see the sentence, it said 100%.
9 years. Oh, true. I have to be
exoneration on
35.
this. So he just
I'm
keeps
only-
it going. He
I'm
says
not
he
35
ran
yet.
because of Charlottesville. He didn't run because of Charlottesville. He ran because it was his last chance. He's not equipped to be president. You know it, and I know it. It's ridiculous. We have a debate.
That's
We're
true.
trying to justify his presidency. His presidency, he's, without question, the worst president, the worst presidency in the history of our country. We shouldn't
This
be
is
having a
objectively
debate
untrue.
about it. There's nothing to debate. He made up the Charlottesville story, and you'll see it's debunked all over the place. Every anchor has, every reasonable anchor has debunked it. And just the other day it came out where it was fully debunked. It's a nonsense story. He knows that, and he didn't run because of Charlottesville. He used that as an excuse to run.
President Biden.
Insane.
And debunked. It happened. All you have to do is listen to what was said at the time. And the idea that somehow that's the only reason I ran. I ran because I was worried a guy
Listen,
like this
Jack,
might get elected. If he
it was
thought
said
they were
at
good
the
people
time.
coming out of that
That's all you have to
forest,
say. That's all you have to
carrying
do.
those
All I have to
woods,
know is look
carrying
at the
those
time.
torches, then he didn't
Listen
deserve
to the
be
people
president.
who were looking
Didn't
at the
deserve to be
time,
president at all.
speaking.
And the idea that he's talking
Listen,
about
Jack.
all this being fabricated. We saw with our own eyes. We saw what
saw
happened on January 6th. We saw the people breaking through the windows. We saw people occupying his own vice president. Look, there's a reason why 40 of his 44 top cabinet officers refused to endorse him this
Give
time.
an attempt at a
His
complete
vice
sentence,
president
sir.
hasn't endorsed him this time. So why? Why? They know him well. They serve with him. Why are they not endorsing him?
Thank you, President Biden. We're going to be right back with more from the CNN presidential debate.
Oh, good heavens. All right, chat. That's our break. Good Lord. Oh, God. I don't know, man. I don't know, chat. This is, I also feel like I aged 20 years. How we feeling? I have a genuine headache. Here's the real question. Why are we doing this at night? Why not during the day when they're more awake? Why not during the day when I'm more awake? 'Cause, like, this is bedtime for me. Yeah, I will say it's been boring. It's been kind of boring, you know? Ugh, hang on. There we go. Alright, I'm gonna put that back later. I've never seen a piece of programming where I have to imagine every American staring at their screens, willing these two to collapse. Yeah. Well, it's really it's not been good. That's crazy. Trump is he's being really good. He's being very mild. Which I'm kind of shocked. He's being very, like, calm, respectful. Kind of bonkers. He hasn't even announced his VP yet. Yeah, honestly, the VP thing, I don't even know where to start with that, because I know that there are some people who would do it. It's difficult because actually, well, I can tell you the reason why he doesn't have a VP yet. The reason he hasn't announced his vice president is because, if you recall, his vice president in 2016 was Mike Pence. And the reason that Mike Pence was a good choice is he's very moderate. He's very mild. Oh shit. Oh, we're back already. Sorry, we're back already. I was gonna go off. To a record low under your presidency, black families still earn far less, but never mind, than white families. Black mothers are still 3 times more likely to die from pregnancy-related causes, and black Americans are imprisoned at 5 times the rate of white Americans. What do you say to black voters who remind me to talk about that you haven't made more progress?
They acknowledge they made a lot of progress, number one. The fact of the matter is there are more small black businesses that have been started than any time in history. Number two, the wages of black unemployment is the lowest level it's been in a long, long time. Number three, we're providing housing for black Americans and dealing with the segregation that exists among these corporations that collude to keep people out of their houses. And in addition to that, we find that the impact on the choice that black families have to make relative to child care is incredibly difficult. When we did the first major piece of legislation in the past,
we're losing him, chat.
Black child care costs, I cut them in half. We got to make sure we provide for child care costs. We got to make sure, because when you provide those child care protections, you increase economic growth because more people can be in the job market. So there's more to be done, considerably more to be done. But we've done a great deal so far, and I'm not letting up, and they know it.
You have 49 seconds left. What do you say to black voters who are disappointed with the progress so far?
I say I don't blame them for being disappointed.
He finished
Inflation
early.
Is still hurting them badly. For example, I provided for the idea that any black family, first-time home buyer, should get a $10,000 tax credit to be able to buy their first home so they can get started. I made sure that we're in a situation where all those black families...
I don't think he's ever said this before.
...who provided, had to take out student loans that were ballooning, that if they were engaged in nursing,
Trump has the same face I do when I'm getting my blood drawn.
If they paid their bills for 10 years on their student debt, all the rest was forgiven after 10 years. Millions have benefited from that. And we're going to do a whole lot more for black families.
Thank you, President Trump.
And he caused the inflation. He's blaming inflation, and he's right, it's been very bad. He caused the inflation.
Trump's like, look, I'm not going to talk about black people.
Families and just about everybody. It's killing people. They can't.
Actually, everybody.
They can't.
Because inflation.
Look at the cost of food, where it's doubled, and tripled, and quadrupled. They can't live. They're not living anymore.
That's
crazy. He caused this inflation. I gave him a country with essentially no inflation. It was perfect. It was so good. All he had to do is leave it alone. He destroyed it with his Green New Scam and all of the other money that's being thrown out the window. He caused inflation. As sure as you're sitting there, the fact is that his big kill on the black people is the millions of people that he's allowed to come in through the border. They're taking black jobs now.
Biden right now is just...
It could be 19 and even 20 million people. They're taking black jobs, and they're taking Hispanic jobs, and you haven't seen it yet, but you're going to see something that's going to be the worst in our history.
Thank you.
Oh, God, I hope so.
There was no inflation when I became president. You know why? The economy was flat on its back. 50% unemployment. He decimated the economy. Absolutely decimated the economy. That's why
Biden admits that there was no inflation when he took office.
No jobs. provided thousands of millions of jobs
Okay.
for individuals who are in
Interesting
communities,
take.
including minority communities.
See, I didn't expect
We
that
made
angle
sure
from
that
him.
They have health insurance. We have covered. If the ACA has increased, I made sure that they're $8,000 per person in a family to get written off for health care.
There was
This
no
guy wants to
inflation, by the way.
eliminate it. They tried 50 times. He wants to get rid of the ACA again, and they're going to try again if they win. We find
Don't
ourselves
get rid
in
of
a
the AC.
position
I'm
where
hot.
the idea that we're not doing
too
any-
hot out.
we put more police on the street than any administration has. He wants to cut the cops. We're providing for
Okay.
equity and making sure people have a
More
shot
police?
to make it. There's a lot
Go
going
off?
on, but in inflation, he caused it by his tremendous malfeasance in the way he handled the pandemic.
Thank you. Another persistent challenge is the climate crisis. 2023 was the hottest year in recorded history, and communities across the country are confronting the devastating effects of extreme heat, intensifying wildfires, stronger hurricanes, and rising sea levels. Former President Trump, you've vowed to end your opponent's climate initiatives, but will you take any action as president to slow the climate crisis?
Well, let me just go back to what he said about the police, how close the police are to him. Almost
Please,
every
dude.
police group in the nation from every state is
We don't care
supporting
how much they like
Donald J.
you.
Trump. Almost every police group. And what he's done to the black population
care.
is horrible, including the fact that for 10 years he
What are
called
you-
them super predators. We can't, in the 1990s, we can't forget
What?
that. Super predators was his name, and he called it to them for 10, and they've taken great offense at it, and now they see it happening. But when they see what I did for criminal justice reform and for the historically
I'm losing it.
black colleges and universities, where I funded them and got them all funded, and the opportunity zones with Tim, as you know, Tim Scott was incredible. He
The
did a great
question
job.
on
Great
the
senator
screen.
from South Carolina.
Guys,
He came to me with the idea, and it was a
would
great
Trump
idea.
take
It's one
any
of the most
action to slow the
successful
climate
economic
crisis?
development acts ever in the country. Opportunity zones, and the biggest beneficiary are blacks, and that's why we have
Blacks.
the best numbers with them in
all right.
maybe ever. They're saying ever. I read this morning where ever the best numbers. He's
He
lost
said blacks.
much of the black population because he's done a
So-
horrible job for black people. He's also done a horrible job for Hispanics. But wait till you see these millions of people pouring into our country, and they're going to take the jobs, and it's already started, and you haven't seen anything yet. It's a disaster.
So again, the
You-
question.
38 seconds left. President Trump, will you take any action as president to slow the climate crisis?
So I want
No.
absolutely immaculate clean water, and I want
Water.
absolutely clean air, and we had
Air.
it. We had H2O. We had the best numbers ever, and we were using
We had
all
H2O.
forms of energy.
Now
all
we have
forms,
H1O.
everything. And yet, during my 4 years, I had the best environmental numbers ever. And my top environmental people gave me that statistic.
We used to
just
have
before I walked
H2O.
on the
Biden
stage, actually.
changed chemistry.
I don't know where the hell he's been. The idea that anything he said is
Dude, I'm
true. I've passed the most extensive climate change legislation in history. We find ourselves, and by the way, black
Also,
colleges,
hi, Chris.
I came up with $15
Welcome.
billion for HBCUs, historic black universities and colleges.
Dude,
Because they don't have the
you
kind
can't
of
commentate on
contributors
this.
that they have to build these laboratories.
What
and
would
the
you
like.
say?
Any black student
you were me right now-
doing any white student can do.
What would
They
you
just have
say?
the money, but now they'll be able to get those
Really?
jobs in high tech. We're in a situation where the idea that he is claiming to have done something that had the cleanest water,
The cleanest water.
he hadn't done a damn thing.
That is an insane claim.
He
Like, I'm
put
high right
Paris
now. I
Peace
let that
Accord,
pass because of the
climate
H2O thing.
I immediately joined
But-
it because if we reach 1.5 degrees Celsius,
That is
then
crazy.
there's
Like,
no
he
way
just
back.
like
The only
Trump says
existential
things
threat
all the
to
time,
humanity
but he
is
just
climate
literally was
change.
like,
And
"Oh,
he didn't
we had
do
the
a damn
cleanest
thing
water."
about
Like,
it.
what
He wants to
are
undo
you
all that
talking
I did.
about?
The Paris Accord was going to cost us $1 trillion, and China nothing, and Russia nothing, and India nothing.
Trump
It was
starts
a
talking,
ripoff
it's
of
immediately-
the United States, and I ended it because I didn't want to waste
It's-
that money because they
I
treated us horribly. We were the
can't
only ones who
believe
was
this.
costing us money. Nobody else was paying into it, and it was a disaster.
Neither of them should
But
be allowed to
everything that he
talk.
said just now, I'll give you an example. I heard him say
True.
before insulin. I'm the one that got the insulin down for the seniors. I took care of the seniors. What he's doing is destroying all of our medical programs because the migrants coming in, they want everybody And look, I have the biggest heart on the stage. I guarantee you that.
Dude, he's so
and
funny,
I want to take
though.
care of people. But we're destroying our country. They're taking over our schools, our hospitals, and they're going to
I'd be smiling like that
Social
when I'm trying to
Security.
flirt, actually.
He is destroying
I
Social
hit him with the...
Security, Medicare, and Medicaid.
Did he really help with insulin? No, he did not.
We, in fact, we were the only ones of consequence who were not members of the Paris Accord. How can we do anything if we're not able to? The United States can't get its pollution under control. One of the largest polluters in the world, number one. We're making significant progress. By 2035, we will have cut pollution in half. We have made significant progress, and we're continuing to make progress. We set up a climate corps for thousands of young people to learn how to deal with climate, just like the Peace Corps. And we're moving in directions that are going to significantly change the elements of cause of pollution. But the idea that he claims that he has the biggest heart up here and he's really concerned about pollution and about climate, I've not seen any indication of that. And by the way, with regard to prescription drugs, one company agreed that they would reduce the price to $35, which I was calling for, one, voluntarily. I made sure every company in the world, every pharmaceutical company, cannot have to pay.
Thank you.
And by the way,
so every day, millions of Americans struggle just to make ends meet. For many older Americans, Social Security provides a critical lifeline. President Biden, if nothing is done to Social Security,
Famous last words.
will see their benefits cut
And by
in
the
just
way,
over 10 years. Will you name tonight one specific step that you're willing to take to keep Social Security solvent?
yes, make the very wealthy begin to pay their fair share. Right now, everybody making under $170,000 pays 6% of their income, of their paycheck, every single time they get a paycheck from the time the first one they get when they're 18 years old. The idea that they're going to...
I'm going to let him spit.
I'm proposing that everybody, they pay, the millionaires pay 1%. 1%. So no one after, I would not raise the cost of Social Security for anybody under $400,000. After that, I began to make the wealthy begin to pay their fair share by increasing from 1% beyond to be able to guarantee the program for life.
So you still have 82 seconds left. Are there any other measures that you think that would be able to help keep Social Security solvent, or is that one enough?
Well, no, that one enough will keep it solvent. But the biggest thing I'll do if we defeat this man, because
he's actually
he
not
wants to
wrong
defeat
about
Social
this.
Security. He thinks there's plenty
If
to
we
cut
just
in Social
actually
Security.
tax rich
He
people,
wanted to cut Social Security and Medicare.
it's legitimately insane
That's
how
and
much
if you look at
how
the
fine
program
everything
put
would be.
forward by the House Republican caucus
That will never happen, but he's not wrong.
Is in fact want to cut it as well. The idea that we don't need to protect our seniors is ridiculous. And by the way, the American public has greater health care coverage today than ever before. And on the ACA, as I said, we're in a circumstance where 400,000 people, 40 million people would not have insurance because they have a pre-existing condition. Only thing that allows them to have that insurance is the fact that they, in fact, are part of the ACA. And by the way, the other thing is, we're in a situation where I talk about education for black communities. I've raised the amount of money for Pell Grants another $8,000. So anybody making under $70,000 a year is going to be able
Our seniors, he's talking about people 20 years younger than him.
Tuition.
He unironically is.
He just doesn't know what he's talking about.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump.
That's unironically
So I've
true.
dealt with politicians all my life. I've been on this side of the equation for the last 8 years. I've never seen anybody lie like
More
this
than
guy.
8, sir.
He lies. I've never seen it. He could look you in the face. About so many other things too. And we mentioned the laptop. We mentioned Russia, Ukraine. Everything he does is a lie. It's misinformation and disinformation.
By the way,
the losers and suckers story that he made up is a total lie on the military. It's a disgrace.
all my life,
But Social
8
Security,
years.
he's destroying it because millions of people are pouring into our country, and they're putting them onto Social Security. They're putting them onto Medicare, Medicaid. They're putting them in our hospitals. They're taking the place of our citizens. What they're doing to the VA, to our veterans, is unbelievable. Our veterans are living in the street, and these people are living in luxury hotels. He doesn't know what he's doing, and it's really coming back. I've never seen such anger in our country before.
President Biden.
The idea that veterans are not being taken care of, I told you before. And by the way, when I said suckers and losers, he said, He acknowledged after that he fired that general. That general got fired because he's the one that acknowledged that that's what he said. He was the one standing with Trump when he said it, number one. Number two, the idea that we're going to be in a situation where all these millions and millions, the way he talks about it, illegal aliens are coming into the country and taking away our jobs. There's a reason why we have
by the
the
way,
fastest growing economy in the world. The reason why we have the most successful economy in the world. We're doing
when they're
better than
talking
any
about the
other
luxury
nation in the
hotels,
world.
they're talking about the
And by
fact
way,
that
those 15 Nobel
immigrants
laureates
are
who talked about
often
being
boarded
those
at
15 Nobel laureates,
like
economists, they all
shitty
said
fucking
that
hotels
if Trump is reelected, we're likely to have a recession
because
and inflation.
the government has nowhere else to put them.
And by the way, the worst president in history.
So they'll use
159
hotels like
presidential scholars
extended
voted
stays
him
and
the
like
worst president in
motels and
history of
whatever.
United
They'll
States
use
of
them
America.
as basically boarding.
President Biden, thank you so much. Let's turn to the cost of child care, which many American families struggle
To call them
afford.
5-star
President
hotels
Trump,
is
both
like
you and President
embarrassingly
Biden
untrue.
have tried to
Like these
address
are
this
literally
issue,
like 1-star
but the
hotels.
average cost of child care in
And
this
that's not an
country has risen to
exaggeration.
more than $11,000 a year per child. For many families, the cost
By
of
the
child
way,
care for
counter.
2 children is more than their rent.
Thank you.
In your second term, what would you do to make child care more affordable?
Nothing.
Just look at the general got fired because he was no good. And if he said that, that's why he made it up. But we have 19 people that said I didn't say it, and they're very highly respected, much more so than him.
19
The
people.
other thing is, he doesn't fire people. He never fired people. I've never seen him fire anybody. I did fire a lot. I fired Comey because he was no good. I fired a lot of the top people at the FBI, drained the swamp. They were no good. Not easy to fire people. You'd pay a price for it, but they were no good. I inherited
the
these
little
people.
ear
I didn't put him
scratch.
there. I didn't put
Oh my
Comey there.
God.
He was no good. I fired him. This guy hasn't fired anybody. He never fires. He should have fired every military man
So
that
again,
was involved with that Afghan.
Mr. Trump,
the
what will you do to
Afghanistan,
make child care more
horror
affordable?
show, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. He didn't fire. Did you fire anybody? Did you fire anybody that's on the border that's allowed us
So,
to have
Mr.
the worst
Trump,
border
what
in
would
the
you do to
history
make
of the
child
world?
care
Did
more
anybody get
affordable?
fired for allowing 18 million people, many from prisons, many from mental institutions? Did you fire anybody that allowed our country to be destroyed? Joe, our country is being destroyed as you and I sit up
Joe.
here and waste a lot of time on this debate. This shouldn't be a debate. He is the worst president. He just said about me because I said it. But look, he's the worst president in the history of our country. He's destroyed our country. Now all of a sudden
What
he's
was
trying to get
that?
a little tough on the border.
He was like,
came
ugh.
out with a nothing deal, and it reduced it a little bit, like this much. It's
I kind of get why
He wants
Joe
open
is
borders.
feeling this way
He
now.
wants our country to either be destroyed
The way
or
that he
wants to
looks,
pick up those people
the way that he
as
looks right
voters.
now, I feel like
And
that.
I don't think we just can't let it happen.
Inside.
If he wins this election, our country doesn't have a chance, not even a chance,
God, I hope
of
not.
coming out of this rut. We probably won't have a country left anymore. That's how bad it is. He is the worst in history by far.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden?
We're the most admired country in the world. We're the United States of America. There's nothing beyond our capacity. We have the finest military in the history of the world, the finest in the history of the world. No one thinks we're weak. No one wants to screw around with us. Nobody. Number one. Number two, the idea
What
that
are we
we're
talking about? Oh, sorry.
worst presidents. I wasn't joking. Look it up or go online. 159 or 58, don't hold me the exact number, presidential historians, they've had meetings and they voted who's the worst president in American history, one through best to worst. They said he was the worst in all of American history. That's a fact. That's not conjecture. He can argue they're wrong, but that's what they voted. The idea.
I
that
think
he
I would
was
argue
knowing,
that they're wrong.
Doing anything to deal with.
I think
childcare.
clearly the worst
He
president in
did very-
history is
virtually
Ronald
nothing
Reagan,
with childcare.
right? Like
We should
that's
significantly increase the child care
that's
tax credit.
probably
We should
obvious.
significantly increase the availability of
feels
women and
obvious to
men
me.
or single parents to be able to go back to work, and we should encourage businesses to have
Thank you, President
child care
Biden.
facilities.
President Trump, the question was about what would you do to make child care more affordable, if you want to take your minute.
Just so you understand, we have polling, we have other things that they rate him the worst because what he's done is so bad. And they rate me, I'll show you, I will show you, and they rate me one of the best, okay? And if I'm given another 4 years, I will be the best. I think I'll be the best.
So again, Mr.
Nobody's
Trump, the
ever
question was, what will you
created
do
an
to
economy
reduce the
like
cost
us.
of
Nobody ever
childcare?
cut taxes like us. He's the only one I know. He wants to raise your taxes by 4 times. He wants to raise everybody's taxes by 4 times. He wants
just
the
pulling
Trump
that
tax
out of his
cuts to
ass. Okay.
expire. So everybody, including the two of you, are going to pay 4 to 5 times. Nobody ever heard of this before. All my life, I'd grow up and I'd see politicians.
Joe
talking
Biden
about
hasn't even
cutting
heard of this
taxes.
before,
When we
because
cut
this
taxes,
is not
as I said,
a policy.
We did more business. Apple and all these companies, they were bringing money back into our country. The worst president in history by far, and everybody knows it.
President Biden?
Look, the fact of the matter is that he's dead wrong about. He's increased the tariff. He will increase the taxes on middle-class people.
Okay.
I said I'd
That's
never
true.
raise a tax on anybody making less than $400,000. I didn't. But this tariff is 10% tariffs. Everything coming in the country, you know what the economists say? That's going to cost the average American $2,500 a year more, because they're going to have to pay the difference in food.
This is
and all
objectively
things
how
that are
tariffs work.
important.
Yes.
Number 2, he's in a situation where he talks about how he has not raised, he somehow helped the middle class. The middle class have been devastated by you. Now you want a new tax cut of $5 trillion over the next 10 years, which is going to fundamentally bankrupt the country. You had the largest deficit of any president in American history, number 1. Number 2, you have not, in fact, made any contact, any progress with China. We are the lowest trade deficit with China since 2010.
Thank you, President Biden. Thank you, President Biden. Let's discuss an epidemic.
I love when
millions
Trump
of Americans
gives us
that
the
both of you
wide
have
smile.
Made a top priority in your first term, the opioid crisis, and for both of you,
I don't know how he does that.
The number of overdose
He
deaths
smiles
in this
so
country
wide,
has gone
like with his
up.
mouth closed.
Under your term, it went up. Under your term, it has gone
Like,
up. Former President Trump, despite the efforts that both of you have
that's
made,
crazy.
more than 100,000 Americans are dying from overdoses every year, primarily from fentanyl and other opioids. What will you do to help Americans
we talking
right
about
now in the throes of addiction who are struggling to get the treatment they need?
Will he answer this question?
To finish up,
God damn it.
we now have the largest deficit in the history of our country under this guy.
I'm going to kill myself.
We have the largest deficit with China.
I'm going to lose my mind.
He gets paid by China. He's a Manchurian candidate. He gets money
I'm going
from
to lose
China.
my mind.
So I think he's afraid to do
So again,
something.
Mr. Trump, the question is,
But
what would you do to help Americans who are addicted to
because he bring in
opioids?
so much money with the tariffs that I imposed on China. He never took them away. He can't, because it's too much money. It's tremendous. And we saved our steel industries, and there was more to come. But he hasn't
Our steel
done that.
industries.
But he hasn't cut the tariffs because he can't, because it's too much money. But he's got the largest deficit in the history of our country, and he's got the worst situation with China. China's going to own us if you keep allowing them to do what they're doing to us as a country. They are killing us as a country, Joe, and you can't let that happen. You're destroying our country.
So, President Trump, you have 67 seconds left. The question was, what are you going to do to help Americans in the throes of addiction right
Trump
now?
doesn't even he doesn't even remember. Like, Trump hears the question, he's like,
We're
I'm talking
doing
about
very
something
well
else.
at addiction
And he doesn't even
until
go back to the
COVID came
question.
along. We had the 2.5, almost 3 years.
That's insane.
Like nobody's ever had before, any country, in every way. And then we had to get tough. And it was the drugs pouring across the border it started to increase. We got
Okay, so
great
he's just
equipment.
yapping.
We bought the certain dog that's the most incredible thing that you've ever seen, the way they can spot it. We did a lot. And
We bought
We were
dogs.
getting very
Guys,
low
we
numbers.
put dogs on the border.
Very low numbers. Then he came along. The numbers, have you seen the numbers now? It's not only the 18 million people that I believe is even low, because the gotaways, they don't even talk about gotaways. But the numbers of the amount of drugs and human trafficking in women coming across our border, the worst thing I've ever seen.
Human trafficking in women?
Numbers that nobody's ever seen under him, because the border's so bad. But the number of drugs coming across our border now is the largest we've ever had by far.
Stream's going to go dark
President
for a
Trump,
sec.
thank you. President Biden?
Fentanyl and the byproducts of fentanyl went down.
That is
for a while.
crazy, bro.
And I wanted to make sure we use the machinery that can detect fentanyl. These big machines that roll over everything that comes across the border.
The massive
And it
amount of
costs a
human
lot of money.
trafficking.
That was part of this deal we put together, this bipartisan deal. More fentanyl machines, more be able to detect drugs, more
Fentanyl
numbers
machines.
of agents, more numbers of all the people at the border. And when we had that deal done, he called his Republican colleagues and said, don't do it. It's going to hurt me politically. No, he never argued it's not a good bill. It's a really good bill. We need those machines. We need
Trump
those
is
machines.
nodding to this.
We're coming down very hard in every country in Asia in terms of precursors.
Biden
to
said
fentanyl.
it's a good bill, and
Mexico
Trump
is
went,
working with us to make sure they don't have the technology.
He's like,
to be
yeah,
able to put it
I did
together.
that.
That's
I
what
did
we
tell
have
them not to
do.
vote on
we
it.
We need those machines.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, and
Crazy.
again, the question is about Americans in the throes of addiction right now, struggling to get the treatment they need.
Well, this does pertain to it. He ended Remain in Mexico. He ended catch and release. I made it catch and release in Mexico, not catch and release here. We had so many things that we had done, hard negotiations with Mexico, and I got it all for nothing. It's just like when you have a hostage. We always pay $6 billion for a hostage. Every time we say it's a hostage. Now we have a hostage, a Wall Street Journal reporter. I think a good guy. And he's over there because Putin is laughing at this guy, probably asking for billions of dollars for the reporter. I will have him out very quickly as soon as I take office. Before I take office, I said by literally as soon as I win the election, I will have that reporter out. He should have had him out a long time ago. But Putin's probably asking for billions and billions of dollars because this guy pays it every time. We had 2 cases where we paid $6 billion for 5 people. I got 58 people out, and I
So again, Mr. Trump,
nothing.
the question was, how will you
Let's
help
turn to concerns that voters
Americans
have about
addicted
each
to
of you.
opiates?
President Biden, you would be 86 at the end of your second term. How do you address concerns about your capability to handle the toughest
You
job
don't.
in the world
You just don't.
well into your 80s?
Well, first of all, I spent half my career being criticized being the youngest.
Here's the answer to this question. Here's how you
Politics.
answer
I'm
this
the
question, by the way.
second youngest person ever elected
I
to
have an
the United States
amazing
Senate,
cabinet and I
now
have an
I'm the
amazing
oldest.
staff.
This guy's 3 years younger and a lot less competent.
That's it.
I think that just
That's
look
it.
at the record. Look at what
That's
I've
all
done.
it is.
I've turned around the
He's not going to
horrible
say that, so I'm
situation.
just going to say it for him. Here's how you answer this question. Here's how you sincerely, honestly answer this question. I know that I'm old. I get it. But you know, I'm still cognizant, I'm still aware, and I still understand the issues. And the great news is I have a lot of wonderful people that work for me and work in my cabinet and work in my staff. And they handle a lot of things, you know? And so I work with them because I think part of the office of president is about working with people that you trust. So it doesn't matter how old I am, really, because I have amazing people around me that I trust that help me get things done. And we've gotten a lot done over these past 4 years. That's how you answer that question. That's you can use that one.
President Biden, you have 40 seconds left. Would you like to add
That one's
anything?
for free.
Yeah, I would. The idea that somehow
But you're
we
welcome.
are
That's how you answer that
this failing
question.
country. Never heard
I
a
don't know what
president
he
talk
actually
like
said. I
this
don't care.
before. We're the envy of the world. Name me a single major country president who wouldn't trade places with the United States of America for all our problems and all our opportunities. We're the most progressive country in the world
What?
in getting things done. We're the strongest country in the world. We're a country in the world who keeps our
We are
word,
not the most
and
progressive country in the
everybody
world.
trusts us. All of our allies.
Crazy
and our,
statement.
And our those who he coddles up to, from Kim Jong-un, we sent love letters to, and Putin, etc. They don't want to screw around with us.
Thank you. Former President Trump, to follow up, you would be 82 at the end of your second term. What do you say to voters who have concerns about your capabilities to serve?
Well, I took 2
It's gonna be
cognitive
whataboutism.
tests. I aced them, both of them, as you know.
He's gonna say, "You
They're
think
very
I'm bad? Look at
public.
this guy."
He took none. I'd like to see him take one, just one, a real easy one.
There you go.
Like go through the first 5 questions. He couldn't do it. But I took 2 cognitive tests.
I couldn't do
took
it. I'm a dumb
physical
bitch.
exams every year. And, you know, we knock on wood wherever we may have wood, that I'm in very good health. I just won 2 club championships, not even senior.
Wherever we
2
have
regular
wood.
club championships. To do that, you have to be quite smart, and you have to be able to hit the ball a long way. And I do it. He doesn't do it. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. He challenged me to a golf match. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. I think I'm in very good shape. I feel that I'm as in good a shape as I was 25, 30 years ago. Actually, I'm probably a little bit lighter, but I'm in as good a shape as I was years ago. I feel very good.
I
feel
was
the
in
same.
as good a
But
shape
I was willing
20
to
years
take
ago,
the
which is to
cognitive
say,
test.
not good.
And you know what? If I didn't do well, I aced him. Dr. Ronnie Jackson, who's a great guy when he was White House doctor, and then I took another one, a similar one, and one of them said they'd never seen anybody ace him.
Thank you. President Biden?
You can see he is 6'5" and only 223 pounds, or 235 pounds. Well, you said 6'4", 200. Well, anyway, that's what anyway, just take a look at what he says he is, and take a look at what he is. Look, I'd be happy to have a driving contest with him. I got my handicap, which when I was vice president, down to a 6. But by the way, I told you before, I'm happy to play golf if you carry your own bag. Think you can do it?
That's the biggest lie. He's a 6 handicap of all.
I was an 8 handicap.
Yeah.
8. But I had, you know how many?
I've seen you swing. I know you swing.
Let's
not act like children.
President Trump, we're going to
21
turn
Let's not act like children.
You
to
are
a
a child.
specific concern that voters have about you. Will you pledge tonight that once all legal challenges have been exhausted, that you will accept the results of this election, regardless of who wins, and you will say right now that political violence
The fact
in any
that
form
they just
is
had an
unacceptable.
argument
Well, I
about
shouldn't
who's
have to
better
say
at
that,
golf.
But of course I believe that. It's totally unacceptable. And if you would see my statements that I made on Twitter at the time, and also my statement that I made
Yeah,
in the
young
Rose
people
Garden,
and
you
poor
would say it's
people
one
are
of
going
the
to be
strongest
jumping
statements
to
you've
vote
ever
for you
seen,
guys.
In addition to the speech I made, in front of, I believe, the largest crowd I've ever spoken to, and I will tell you, nobody ever talks about that. They talk about
They should
a
just
relatively
golf.
small number of people that went to the Capitol, and in many cases were ushered in by the police. And as Nancy Pelosi said, it was her responsibility, not mine. She said that loud and clear. But the answer is, if the election is fair, free, and I want that more than anybody. And I'll tell you something. I wish he was a great president, because I wouldn't be here right now. I'd be at one of my many places enjoying myself. I wouldn't be under indictment because I wouldn't have been his political opponent, because he indicted me because I was his opponent.
He indicted
I
me.
wish he was a great president. I would rather have that. I
He said
wouldn't
the
be
thing.
here. I don't mind being here.
I like when he
the
says
only
the
reason
thing.
I'm here is he's so bad as a president
He indicted me.
that I'm going to make America great again. We're going to make America great again. We're a failing nation.
Make America
right now.
great
We're a
again,
seriously
again.
failing nation. And we're a failing nation
Actually.
because of him. His policies are
Thank you very
so
much.
bad. His military policies are
So bad.
insane. They're insane. These are wars that will never end with him. He will drive us into World War III, and we're closer to World War III than anybody
just
can
a little
imagine.
cinnamon
We
roll.
are very, very close to World War III, and he's driving us there. And Kim
That's
Jong-un
true.
and President Xi of China, Kim Jong-un of North Korea, all of these, Putin, they don't respect
I like
him.
that he
They don't
specified China
fear
and North
him.
Korea.
They have nothing
Just to
going
prove
with
that
this
he knew where
gentleman,
they were from.
And he's going to drive us into World War III.
You want a World War III? Let him
Vote for
follow
Trump.
and win, and let Putin say, "Do what you want, NATO."
There you go.
Just do what you want. There's a thing called Article 5. An attack on one is an attack on all. A required response. The idea. I can't think of a single major leader in the
Man,
world
say
who wouldn't
anything.
trade places with the job I've done, what they've
Say
done.
anything, bro.
Because we are a powerful nation. We have wonderful people. It's because of the people, not me. It's because of the American people. They're capable of anything, and they step up when they're needed. And right now, we're needed. We're needed to protect the world
We are
because
needed.
of our own safety is
We're
at stake.
needed.
And again, you want to have a war, just let Putin go ahead and take Kyiv, make sure they move on, see what happens in Poland, Hungary, and other places along that border. Then you have a war.
President Trump, as I come back to you for a follow-up, the question was, will you accept the results of this election, regardless of who wins?
Just to finish what he said, if I might, Russia, they took a lot of land from Bush. They took a lot of land from Obama and Biden. They took no land, nothing from Trump, nothing. He knew not to do it.
I can
Not
only
gonna play
face
games
palm
with
so
me.
much,
He knew that. I
man.
got along with him very well, but he knew not to play
It's
games.
every time.
He took nothing from me.
It's every
But now
time.
he's going to take the whole thing from this man right here.
It's every time.
That's
and he's
a war
like,
that should have never started. It
I'm
would have
sorry.
never
I'm
started
sorry, miss.
ever
If I may.
with me.
Russia.
And he's going to take Ukraine. And, you know, you asked me a question
I
before.
swear to
would
God,
we do
bro.
this with- He's got us in such a bad position right now with Ukraine and Russia. Because Ukraine's not winning that war. He said, I will never settle until
You have
such
2
time."
minutes to
They're
say
running
yes
out
or
of
no.
people. They're running out of soldiers. They've lost so many people. It's so sad. They've lost so many people, and they've lost those gorgeous cities with the golden domes that are 1,000 years old, all because of him and stupid decisions. Russia would have never attacked if I were
President Trump,
president.
the question was, will you accept the results of the election, regardless of who wins? Yes or no, please.
If it's a fair and legal and good election, absolutely. I would have much rather accepted these But the fraud and everything else was ridiculous. And if you want, we'll have a news conference on it in a week. Or we'll have another one of these in a week. But absolutely, there's nothing I'd rather do. It would be much easier for me to do that than I'm running again. I wasn't really going to run until I saw the horrible job he did. He's destroying our country. I would be very happy to be someplace else, in a nice location someplace. And again, no indictments.
Ooh, Biden's cooking.
No political
can you see? Can you hear his fucking cogs turning right now?
But unfortunately, it's driven up my numbers and driven them up to a very high level because the people understand it.
Let's see what your numbers are when this election is over. Let's see. You're a whiner. When you lost the first time,
okay,
you continued. You appealed and appealed.
Bars
all across the country. Not one single court in America said any of your claims had any merit, state or local. None. But you continue to promote
That's crazy.
This lie about somehow there's all this misrepresentation.
See the rust coming out of his. He was cooking.
That at all.
Gears were turning.
I doubt
this is what he came up with.
Because you're such a whiner. The idea if you lose again, you accepting anything, you can't stand the
Bro
loss.
is a whiner.
Snapped in you when you lost the last time.
We'll be right back with more from the CNN presidential debate, live from Georgia.
Okay, but I'm confused. It's supposed to be over. Maybe they'll come back with closing statements. I thought it was only an hour and a half. I don't know what's happening, but I guess we'll find out. They'll probably come back and do closing stuff and wrap up from there. I don't know. This is the encore, yeah, for sure. This is something. What can you even say? You know, it's so bad. I knew it was gonna be bad, but I didn't know it was gonna be this bad. And honestly, I'm struggling. I'm at this point, I'm just thinking about taking a shower. First of all, number one, taking a shower. Number two, making some soup after I get out of the shower. Number three, going to bed. If the commercial ends and they're making out. I wish if only we could live in that America. But we can't. We don't live in that America. We live in this America. The worst one. $45.46 Yahweh. Stop saying that. Creature cats, stop saying that. Knock it off. Stop it. Stop it. Alright, we're back. Let's see what's happening.
is now time for the candidates to deliver their closing statements as predetermined by a coin toss. We're going to begin with you, President Biden. You have 2 minutes.
We've made significant progress from the debacle that was left by President Trump in his last term.
Give you
We find ourselves in a situation where, number one, we have to make sure that we have a fair tax system. I ask anyone out there in the audience or anyone out watching this debate, do you think the tax system is fair?
No.
The fact is that I said nobody even making under $400,000 had a single penny increase in their taxes, and will not. And if I'm reelected, that will be the case again.
Number one.
But this guy has increased your taxes. Because
this guy.
Of the deficit. Number one, he's increased inflation because of the debacle he left after the way he handled the pandemic. And he finds himself in a position where he now wants to tax you more by putting a 10% tariff on everything that comes into the United States of America. What I did, when, for example, he wants to get away with, get rid of the ability of Medicare.
This fucking guy.
For the ability for us to be able to negotiate drug prices with the big pharma companies. Well, guess what? We got it down to $35 for insulin instead of $400. No more than $2,000 for every senior, no matter how much prescription they need. You know what that did? That reduced the federal debt by $160 billion over 10 years because the government doesn't have to pay the exorbitant prices. I'm going to make that available to every senior all along where it's happening now, and everybody in America. He wants to get rid of that. I'm going to make sure that we have child care. We're going to significantly increase the credits people have for child care. I'm going to make sure we do something about what we're doing on lead pipes and all the things that are causing health problems for people across the country. We're going to continue to fight.
Are lead pipes still a widespread issue?
Give people a break.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, you now have
This might be my privilege showing, but...
Like so many politicians, this man is just a complainer. He said, we want to do this, we want to do that, we want to get rid of this tax, that tax. But he doesn't do anything. He doesn't do, all he does is make our country...
This guy is such a complainer, always wanting to make things better.
People to pour in. Our military doesn't respect him. We look like fools in Afghanistan.
The fuck are you talking about?
Israel, it was such a horrible thing that would have never happened. It should have never happened. Iran was broke. Anybody that did business with Iran, including China, they couldn't do business with the United States. They all passed. Iran was broke. They had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah, for terror, no money whatsoever. Again, Ukraine should have never happened. He talks about all this stuff, but he didn't do it. For 3.5 years, we're living in hell. We have the Palestinians and we have everybody else rioting all over the place. You talk about Charlottesville.
We're living in hell, but look how close I am right now.
1,000 times. The whole country is exploding because of you, because they don't respect you, and they have to respect their president, and they don't respect you throughout the world. What we did was incredible. We rebuilt the military. We got the largest tax cut in history, the largest regulation cut in history. The reason he's got jobs is because I cut the regulations that gave jobs. But he's putting a lot of those regulations
Biden would win the election if right now he went over and punched Trump.
Never seen anything like, even from a medical standpoint, right to try, where we can try
like that's an intrusive thought, but I swear to you,
or going to Europe,
Biden would win the election if right now he went over and punched Trump in the face.
They've been trying to get it for 42 years. But you know what we did for the military was incredible.
I swear to God,
choice for our soldiers, where our soldiers, instead of waiting for 3 months to see a doctor, can go out and get themselves fixed up and readied up and take care of themselves, and they're living. And that's why I had the highest approval rating in the history of the VA. So all of these things, we're in a failing nation, but it's not going to be failing anymore. We're going to make it great again.
Thank you, former President Trump. President Biden, stay with us because we have full...
No, I don't care about that. And I think neither does this stream, because it looks like they're done.
President Trump, President Biden, stay with us because we have full...
Oh, that's really weird. It logged in the same spot on a different stream. Well, that's it. That's that, chat. Well, I don't know, guys. I don't know what to say. Thank you for joining. Sorry about the little speed bump there, getting 48-hour banned from Twitch for demonstrating fair use of copyrighted material. It's good stuff. Yeah, I guess I've kind of wanted to move to YouTube, but I didn't have a solid reason.
Judy, Rob, good afternoon to you. So this is the first debate between a sitting president and a former...
Sorry. Post-debate coverage jump scare. Sorry. So, yeah, that was fun. Just so everyone's aware, my understanding is that the Twitch ban, it's a 48-hour suspension because of copyright. And now I have 1 copyright strike on my channel. I can remove that strike by doing like a little copyright material tutorial, I guess, on Twitch, which is hilarious because I was, you know, fairly using copyrighted material. But I honestly don't know if I even care. I might just do YouTube now. Because, frankly, I have way more, like, subscribers than Twitch followers, right? But I've just been putting my content onto YouTube. Anyway, as we're winding downstream, I want to let everyone know that I have actually recorded the, I have recorded the footage for the conservative Wicked article. The response to that. I have not had time to edit it because this week has been insane. I might edit it tomorrow. I might edit it on Saturday, just because I'm not doing much tomorrow, or Saturday, or Sunday, or Monday, actually. So we'll see. Hopefully that'll be out. That'll be on this channel, by the way. So if you're not subscribed, do that. Subscribe, please. Thank you. And you can feel free to check out my backlog of content if you're new. Put out a video that I'm super proud of. It's a reading of the musical Wicked as from a leftist kind of lens. It's kind of a unique take, but kind of a unique take on an old take, if you will. So yeah, please feel free to check that out. Drop a subscription. And yeah, other than that, I think I will be back probably next week with a stream at some point, hopefully, and hopefully I got my my response up soon as well. I'm going to make an attempt to edit this VOD into something consumable, but that's going to be a little difficult just because the Twitch stuff is like all gone. And it was only the first like 5 to 10 minutes of it, but it's, I don't know, still kind of need it. So anyway, I'm done rambling. Thank you so much for joining. I really do appreciate it. If you haven't already, feel free to join the Discord. It's in my link tree, which I just put in the chat. So it's you should join it. You should join the Discord if you're not in there, because it's awesome and it's so fun. And I have silly soundboards and silly emotes and silly stickers. And also, you get to talk to me whenever you want. Maybe not whenever you want, but you should join. And I'll let you know when I'm streaming so that so that you'll know. But other than that, I'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much for joining. And, farewell. Until next time. God bless this forsaken land.